I was never taught how to grieve. And I also was never told that grief was necessary for forward movement. I think when people hear the word grief, they automatically think funeral, right? But some of the deepest grief, it doesn't come from losing people. It comes from losing yourself. The man you thought you'd be, the life you thought you would live forever, the failure or the future that made sense at the time. And when you've been strong your whole life, you don't always necessarily recognize grief. You just feel heavier, quieter, less interested in things, and stuff that used to drive you don't drive you no more. It's like you in part. And I'm learning grief isn't asking me, it's not asking me to collapse. It's asking me to simply stop pretending that nothing has changed. And maybe, just maybe, honoring what ended will make room for what's next. Grief has always been probably something that I ran from, but also something that I didn't understand. I was never taught how to grieve. And I also was never told that grief was necessary for forward movement. There's this picture that I always send to people. It's a man, I guess he's supposed to be depicting Jesus, standing in front of a little girl, and the little girl has a little teddy bear in her hand. And I guess he's trying to get the teddy bear from this little girl. And what she doesn't realize is that the little teddy bear is now going to be replaced by something better. But the only thing she can see is her losing the little teddy bear. And so nobody really ever gave me any context to that story, and how grief will hold you in a spot and won't allow you to continue to keep moving forward, especially if you're living every day, you're not letting go. It's going to be the same story over and over and over again. And in my life, I that was the question that I used to ask. I used to question faith all the time, because it was like, how can you have this heavenly Father but be going through all this hell? Who would put this type of thing on their kids? That whole religious thing. And I won't get really religious, but that was a struggle for me. Faith was a struggle for me. And grief just looked like work, honestly. It never looked like crying. It never looked like the normal things that you would say, man, that person grieved. It was depression and work. I was depressed out of my mind, but as long as I could work, I could at least soften the blow for the time being. But now that I, again, have started to go on this journey of therapy and trying to heal myself, understanding that I have never really grieved for real. A lot of things, but also in me not grieving those things, I've yet to grieve the person who I used to be in receiving those things. But also, I haven't grieved that thing that's holding me back. I lost my daughter in 2020. And let me say that correctly. We lost our daughter in 2021. I can't remember. It was a blur. During the pandemic, wanting to be a father. There's a lot of people out there that don't. My wife wanting to be a mother, and she would have been the best fucking mother in the world. I see how kids gravitate to her, and they gravitate to me too, but it's something about her that's like, she truly was sent from another realm to protect those who she comes across, including me. But we wanted to be parents, and it just didn't happen that way. But then there were other things that happened during that time. I could have lost my wife. I could have lost other people in my family. And I did wind up losing people. A very good friend of mine got killed in a motorcycle wreck. My mentor, one of my spiritual mentors, and this is what probably started making me question this God thing, because this man prayed every day. He was a pastor. He was my neighbor. And his favorite line was, when I asked him how he's doing today, he would always say, "It's the best day of my life." And I didn't understand that for a long time. But then we talked about it one day, and he was like, "Man, every day you get an opportunity to do it again. No matter what you're going through, my God woke me up this morning." That's what he would say to me. And then so, after watching this man pass in his house, on his floor, with his family around, hysterical. The irony in that situation is I have epilepsy. So that particular day that all of this happened, I was getting auras and something said, "You're about to have a seizure." If you've never seen a seizure, it's one of the most violent things in the world. Picture having a cramp and then multiply that by 1,000,000. That's what it feels like to have a seizure. Every muscle in your body is doing this. Anyway, I felt myself having the auras, which is kind of the warning signal before you have a seizure. Nobody was at home, and something said, "Man, just go to the door and unlock the door just in case, nobody's here and EMS got to get in here to you. At least they won't have to knock down the door. They can just come in." And as I go to the door, I think my mind is playing tricks on me because there's a fire truck outside already, and there's an ambulance outside already. So I'm like, what? But it's not there for me. It's for my next door neighbor. So I immediately rush because I see this man every morning, and if they at his house, I didn't know it was for him at the time, but this is my neighbor. I see this man every day. So if it's one of his kids or his wife, I'm stepping up. What you need? What's up? Rushing to the house. His wife is sitting in kind of the front room. See EMS going in, and they pretty much kind of tell me like, "Yeah, nah, bro, he's not gonna make it through this." And the only thing I could do was grab his wife, grab her hands. I kneeled down in front of her, and because she, of course, watching your husband die on the floor. The only thing I could think to say was, "Best day of my life." Remember, every day, no matter what. And this is what I'm saying to this lady. In her time of grief, in her time of realizing that her life will never be the same. It is completely turned upside down, inside out. But in that moment, all I could hear him saying was, "It's the best day of my life. It's the best day of my life." I never met him on a day where he didn't say that. And so this is the man that was taken. Time for him to go ahead and, go on about his business on his journey. Grieving that. I never did. I still see this man's car every day. Same car I used to watch him get into every day. He's still parked in his driveway. I see his family from time to time. But I don't ever think that I've grieved the fact that not only did a man that was helping me at a time that I needed help the most, getting through the loss of a child, he is now gone. So where does that leave me? Because I'm still fighting this other fight. And I realized, through this journey, I never stopped to really just dwell on the fact that this was somebody who you cared about and they're no longer here. I think about my daughter all the time, but just, I don't know, it's weird. Grief for me probably didn't start until I started doing this therapy. I would have days where I would just cry and I didn't understand. It's like, what is wrong with me, bro? Like, I'm in the grocery store on some random stuff and just tears just flowing like a river got cut on. I didn't get it. But as I dug deeper, and I actually asked this question in ChatGPT, like, what's going on? And the consistent answer was, you're grieving, bro. And since you've never grieved, for real, going back to your mom and all of the, excuse my French, bullshit that she's done, your childhood, you losing your granny and then going on a crazy run as far as going on the road and doing the thing in the industry that you like. I wish my granny would have been able to see it, but still living those days. It's a lot of things that are coming up now. Like the two people that I would have wanted to see me perform on stage in front of people. One of them has and one of them never will. And the opportunity that would have presented itself on that specific day, the other person that I would have wanted to see, my granny, she passed that morning. The morning she was supposed to come see me perform at Centennial Olympic Park for the first time on stage, she passed that morning. And I think here recently, I think I connected those dots. I always, of course, you remember, like, whatever, but just recently is hitting me to the point where it is something that's just like, wow, you've been through a lot. We as men aren't taught to grieve. We're not taught to draw attention to our flaws. And that's incredibly unfortunate because, man, I truly believe that I would have been completely different had I known that the tool is called grief. It's a tool. When you're grieving, you're using a tool to release. To me, that was told to be weak. And so I never utilized the tool until I got broken down so far that that was the only thing that was left to do, was to grieve. I'm still in that process. I'm still grieving. I still think about my daughter every day. Every time I walk outside my house, I see this car that this man who I value used to drive every day. I still see it. It's many other situations that I grieve, but grief is one of those things where I was never taught how to do it. I was never told that it was a thing that you needed to do. I was always told, man, just suck it up, keep pushing. Everything will be all right. The whole cliche, everything that you can think cliche, I was told that. And then the position that I held didn't really allow for people to see that I was hurting, because I was told that that wasn't what you show people. You don't show people your weaknesses. And so the grief never was allowed. It never was able to be brought to fruition. But now that I'm on this journey of healing and therapy, it's not in the traditional sense because I ain't sitting in front of nobody but you guys, but I'm learning things every day. I literally take a voice note, talk, then put it in the chat GPT, and it gives me different perspectives on the things that I've been able to express. And so now I'm just using this again as a tool to, for one, hear myself say a lot of this stuff, because I think that's the start of healing. You have to know that you need to grieve, but in order to grieve, you have to identify the problem. And most people don't want to sit and look in the mirror, let alone the camera, and tell themselves and acknowledge that they have a problem, and they may not be able to fix it. They may need help to fix it. So that's a hard thing for most, but I think it's been shunned upon or frowned upon for most men. So it makes it that much harder for men. And it's unfortunate, but I pray, and here we go with this pray hope kind of questioning God and questioning this whole thing. I hope that whoever's going through it, if you lost something, mostly losing yourself, because I think a lot of times that's the grief that we need to address. At 40 years old, I became a different person. The stuff that I used to like, I don't like anymore. The people that I used to be around, I don't want to be around anymore. And I'm not. My outlook on life is way different because I've lived way different. And I don't fault people for how they live. I know I'm not the same person I was, a year ago, let alone 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But I also know that I'm going to encounter people that haven't seen or met the new me. And they're going to expect that. And so I implore everybody that's out there that's going through this life transition, because it's been a hell of a transition for me. This has probably been the hardest thing outside of losing my daughter that I've had to go through, is the transformation and the grief of an identity that I thought would be my identity until I died. Living in a certain space in life, being able to do certain things, and then that being completely ripped from you, thinking that you would accomplish certain things like being a father, and that thing being ripped away from you. It's necessary to identify these things and then take the time to sit with them, because that's the only way that you'll be able to release them. That's the only way you'll be able to grieve. I thought I was sad because I failed. I wasn't. I was sad because I cared. I cared about the person that I was, like, wholeheartedly. And I thought that person was a good person. And I have evidence that he was a pretty damn good person. However, that person doesn't suit this body anymore. So I had to become somebody different. But I also had to accept that I had to become somebody different. And that meant grieving the old life, grieving every piece of it that you thought would be the same, that absolutely is not. I think everybody goes through this at a point in their life, but mine has been a roller coaster. And I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all's has too. But again, I implore you, man, take a deep dive into things that have happened in your life, and I guarantee you'll stumble upon some things that you thought you was over, but you're not. And those things you have to figure out how to grieve. Hell, take a voice note, just talk, put it in ChatGPT, and ask them how to grieve from this. And I guarantee you'll get an answer. Therapy didn't work for me, so I turned to ChatGPT.